Welcome to the Grey Pill Podcast, where truth's unveiled, exploring the depths beyond what is retail. Conspiracies, esoteric knowledge so enthralling. Open up your mind, let's dive into the sprawling. Oh yeah. Grey Pill awaken, question what you know. Peeling back the layers, let your curiosity grow. Uncover hidden realities, break the mold. Come take the journey, let your mind unfold.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Grey Pill Podcast. I'm your host, Jules. Here with my guest tonight, Mr. John Lee Chalbeck. What's going on, brother?
Hey, what's up, Jules? Thanks for having me on the Grey Pill Podcast.
Hell yeah. Very happy to have you on, man. I've been basically, I don't think I've done a live stream in about a week and a half almost. So, you're the first person for me coming back. I had to go to the beach for a few days. Me and my wife, we had to get out of town. Me, her, and my son.
You look like you're at the beach.
Thanks, man. I'm just comfy, bro. Yeah, guys, what's going on? Happy Friday. Hope everybody had a good week. Yeah, man. So I asked you to come on tonight because, I had heard you on Tinfoil Hat, I believe, and you said a lot of things that I resonated with, and you've done a lot of research that I think I've done myself. That not a lot of people have done. And so I admire that. And like I said earlier before we went live, I admire you as a man and a father because, man, you keep it real and you stay winning. So.
Well, likewise, man,
inspired.
I appreciate that. And, from one spiritual warrior and, for a follower of try to live as Christ-like as possible.
Exactly.
I can really, appreciate those words and back at you, brother. Take care of your family, your faith, and your neighbor as much as possible. And that's what we're doing, right? As podcasters, essentially, is trying to wake up our neighbors and whoever will listen to, an alternative theory to what these trust fund dorks are presenting every day, which becomes worse and worse of a World Wrestling Federation, presentation.
They're starting to break the fucking kayfabe.
I mean,
it seems
it's getting really bad. And in case anybody's wondering why I'm standing, I have kind of a sciatic nerve problem right now. I can't sit down and be comfortable, but I can stand, I can walk, I can jump rope, I can fight, I can hit the bag, I can do all those things, but I just can't sit and be comfortable. So driving and sleeping sometimes is really uncomfortable right now, but I'm not an excuse maker. I'm a solution finder. And that's why we're still here doing a podcast because, I'm not going to be like, oh, my leg hurts. I can't do a podcast with you. Let's just stand. I'm going to move around. You guys can deal with it a little bit.
Hell yeah. No, man. I'm just happy you're here, brother. It's late where we both are. So, I love doing late shows all the time. My schedule kind of makes me do them. So, but yeah, man, you want to tell us just a little bit about yourself and you obviously have the It's Not What You Think podcast, which is a great podcast, man. Really is.
I was born in Key West, Florida, in 1982. So that's why, when I started doing MMA, I switched my nickname kind of from John Chaw Daddy Chalbeck, which my cousin always called me like Chalbecker, Chaw Daddy, Chaw Baby, all these different Chaw names when I was growing up.
Baby.
Yeah, he'd be like, come on, Chaw Baby. He'd be like, come on, Chalbecker, or Chaw Daddy, so you want to have a nickname that nobody else had. So, since he gave me that name when I was young, I never really heard anyone else had it. I went with John Chaw Daddy Chalbeck. But when I switched to MMA and I was a boxing coach that just wanted to do MMA for my students because they wanted me to try it. After I did my first MMA fight the day after my dad died, and I did a spinning back kick and I broke this guy's ribs. It kind of like welcomed me onto the MMA scene in Michigan in a big way. Pretty much everyone knew who I was after that fight. So, I decided to kind of go with it and do some MMA fights, even though I always said MMA is gay. I don't want to be cup to cup with someone. Like, I don't like wrestling. Like, this is so dumb. And then you'll see in like my third MMA fight, like the guy tried to like walk up the wall and I pulled him right into me. You know what I mean? So it's just like, I totally embraced MMA. I have like 10 MMA fights now, and bare knuckle, and bare knuckles, the most fun that I've ever had fighting. I mean, I wish those guys would have me back, but I broke my thumb off in my last fight, and they didn't pay for my insurance, like they were supposed to right away. So a lot of my stuff started going to collections when I was sitting there trying to buy a house, and it really upset me. So I got online and started saying things I probably shouldn't have about the company, and they pretty much put me in timeout indefinitely. And I've been kind of just saying like, hey, let me fight, because in the end, I just want to fight. I just like doing it. I like getting the highlights, and I like pushing myself. And I always feel closest to my dad since he died the day before my first MMA fight, even though I had all these boxing fights
Sorry to hear
before
that, man.
before that. I always feel closest to my dad again when I'm making the walk, when I'm fighting. You'll see I close my eyes, and if you guys watched my couple last bare knuckle fights, I close my eyes as I'm walking, and I can like truly feel his spirit like close to my body right before I'm about to go through this really violent, session. So for me, it's more I'm searching for the walk. I really love that feeling as I'm going into it. So,
Do you think
that's,
he like maybe a part of him kind of latched onto your consciousness?
yeah, I think his energy was definitely, part of what happened with that fight. I think because my grandma died, which was his mom, and then he died the day after that, and then I did the fight.
Sorry
So
to
it
hear
was
that.
like all these huge heroes of my life all passed, and so many fighters use excuses to back out of fights, and I use this as fuel, and it changed my life forever. And it helped build what I have for my wife and my 4 children. Stephen,
You have 4
Michaela.
kids?
Yeah, I got 3 daughters, and
You were
then
busy,
pretty
man.
much an 18-year-old son, pretty much.
Wow, dude. You had a kid young. I had my son when I was about 20. So, saved
You
my
were
life.
younger. You were younger than me. I mean, I was 24 when I had my son. I'm 42. You have to remember, I'm pretty old compared to you. I think
You're about 10 years older than me.
You're much younger than me.
Well, my name means youthful. My name Julian means youthful. So, that's why I look 13. Um,
Yeah. So to finish, where I come from, I lived in the Florida Keys for a long time, and when my parents got divorced, I moved to Texas, and I went from being a spoiled rich kid in an island in the Florida Keys to living in the ghetto of by Dallas, and I was getting my ass beat every day for pretty much 700 days in a row. And that was what God put me through
shit.
to make me who I was going to be. Um, because then an ass whooping never, it was like my
Is
friend
nothing.
James,
Yeah.
my friend James said it best. He's like, man, an ass whooping ain't shit to us. We'll be back the next day. And man, he's so right about that. And, that I love that about him, because he's so right. An ass whooping ain't shit to me. I can get my ass beat and I'll be back the next day. And that was what boxing was in the very beginning. Before you become the guy at the gym, you're just a little runt.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. So, how long have you been podcasting?
Well, on and off for a couple years. I just never ever gained too much momentum. um, but I try to stay as consistent as I can, and I feel like as times are getting more and more vital, I try to be put a little bit more out there. But in the end, it's just conversations I'm having with, people who are willing to have the conversations, really. Because think about it, Jules, we go through our daily life every day, and we start having conversations about fallen angels and Semyaza with people, and they're just like, oh yeah, okay, that's crazy, man. I gotta go. Yeah, hey, oh man, that's wild. All right, see
Yeah,
ya.
I get it
Yeah,
every
so
day, brother. I get it every day. I'm like,
and
you
they
know who
asked,
Azazel is? They're like, who the fuck is this guy?
yeah,
Get away
and
from me.
they asked me who I'm gonna vote for, and I go, don't do it, don't fall into it. And I'm just like, that's fake, right? And they want to talk about
Fuck yeah, man.
what they want to talk about, right? But then soon as I start talking about what I want to talk about, they've checked out. And it really does goes to show you how many people are just super rude all the time everywhere, and it makes you kind of jaded because
Absolutely.
people really are only interested in talking about what they are willing to take in, right? And then they'll push down your throat what they think is interesting, like this whole Donald Trump. And I'm like, look, that was all pro wrestling. And
Psyops
then
on
and
psyops on psyops.
they won't even listen to it. They won't
They
even
won't.
listen to it, but they'll expect me to listen to what they have to say. And there's this hypocrisy and this lack of reciprocity that people have. And it's just really just goes to show you, look, I'm actually willing to listen to other people, even though I think they're so full of shit, they have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
It's almost like I need like a written contract that you're going to listen to me once I listen to you, because if I let you go first, you're going to check out in 2 seconds soon as you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah.
How's my mic sound, by the way? Are you getting
You
any
sound
static?
No, you sound good. You sound clear,
Good.
you're down here and then the camera's up here, and I should have put my little bracket a little bit lower, but
You're good, bro.
I
You're good.
apologize for that,
It's all good, brother. Yeah, man. So like I was saying earlier, I first heard you on Tinfoil Hat. You were on there with Mark Steves and some other guy. I don't know his name. I can't
Isaac
remember.
Wise Up, and then Geo
Oh,
Vuka.
Isaac was on there, dude. Wow, man. Yeah, that was a banger episode, brother. That
And
was a
what was
banger
interesting to
episode.
me is that he didn't even notice that the setting of the movie he was talking about was 1977. Like, that blew my mind that this guy is supposed to be this like most heralded conspiracy theorist, esoteric noticer, and he didn't even notice that. I mean, that was the first thing I noticed. Like, in the year 1977, I'm like, of course it's 1977, and of course the movie's 93 minutes long. Like, he noticed the 93 minutes, but he didn't notice the 1977. And to me, it just goes to show you that, hey, a lot of people like talking about, all this esoteric stuff. But in my opinion, like, a lot of people don't even notice what's really going on. And,
Yeah,
you know, to me, it's this worship of these fallen angels, and this rebranding of their names everywhere you look,
dude. Everywhere.
just so that people can have no idea how to battle them, because they tell you in these movies through the revelation of method that first you have to say Jesus, Yeshua, so many times to
Yeshua.
be able to get the demon, the entity to give you the real name. And then it gives you the real name, and then you can control it, right? So that's why I think there's so much of this trust fund dork fuckery with the changing of the names. Like in the movie The Pope's Exorcist, he goes, tell me your name, Satan. What he's saying is, tell me your name, adversary. But so many people think Satan is the name of the devil, and so many people think the devil is this red fork guy with these horns, and they're just been so led astray by all these psyops. And I think even esoteric Eddie, in his
Love
book
Eddie.
in his
Love Eddie.
book Lucifer, the Lucifer Mystery Revealed, he's even makes a case, to which I kind of concur with, that Lucifer is even a psyop. And it even goes back to prove that the real devil, the real name of the leader of these fallen angel entities, is indeed Semyaza.
Yes. Yes. I've been saying this since my first episode on Reality Czars, man. This is Satan, in my opinion. Now, you probably know about the Book of Enoch a lot more than me. But I did want to talk to you about the Sumerian aspect of it as well. Him being in Sumeria as Shamgaz, basically a mentor to Set, who is also, in my opinion, a Satan deity. We know that there's many Satans. Satan just means adversary. And, you know, Christ, look over us while we're talking about this, because this stuff is very dark. It gets very dark, especially when you read these ancient stories. So yeah, man, he was basically in the Sumerian tales. He was known as Shamgaz, and he was Marduk's best friend. Marduk, also known as Azazel, right?
Right. And that goes right along with the Book of Enoch, because those guys are like Tweedledee and
Oh,
Tweedledum.
dude, they're best friends. Marduk's sons, Setu and Asar, or Set and Osiris, they marry Shamgaz's daughters, Nephthys and Asta, or Isis. Now, in my opinion, Isis was a title carried by different deities. Ishtar was at one time referred to as Isis because the generations of Isis, right? The Gen-Isis.
Yeah. Venus, Lilith,
Yeah.
Ishtar,
So Lilith,
Aphrodite.
when me and my buddy Adrian get into these, like this family tree of the Anunnaki, and you know, the whole space thing, I have opinions that they're interdimensional, that, you know, if space is fake and gay, bro, then they came from some other plane in a far away, you know, somewhere where they can observe us from above.
Yeah, I think that's why portals are
Yes.
so important to them,
Yes.
because you know, once you study alchemy and all these, you know, different types of like things that they're trying to transmute, it all comes back to CERN and scrying and John Dee and Edward Kelly and these portals that they've created. And what's very interesting is they would call it scrying, and if you look at your phone, it's black, it's glass, and it's called a screen, right? And it's actually a portal that you're looking into.
Absolutely.
You know, and when I'm running at night and I see all these families out by their fire, but no one's talking to each other in my neighborhood, they're all just staring at their little portals. They're in a different world, and this is what the elite have done with a lot of this technology. And when you study the origins of a lot of this technology, it's very occultic, magical in nature. Like the guy that invented the supercomputer said that he would just go out, and Seymour Cray, he would go out and he couldn't figure it out. And then he would go dig holes in the back of his yard, and the elves would fill out his notebook.
Yeah, man, the Olympic opening ceremony. I didn't even know the Olympics started. Did
Oh yeah, they had
you watch
Ishtar
them?
worship. They had Ishtar worship all over. You had the guy, you had the girl with the big beard that looks like the devil doing like a drag dance. Like, I
Wait,
mean,
let's look this up, man. I don't give a shit if we're on YouTube. We can.
yeah, I
Look it
already
up.
saw one of them, but it's either they do this every year, and the predictive programming is incredible, right? Like in the
Like you said,
2000,
you know,
the revelation of method,
revelation
right?
of the method. Yeah, yeah.
Right. They have to. And what's interesting, Jules, is I can't help but to think about what, since they believe that they come back in this realm in the same family in some sort of reincarnation, what is it that is going to happen to them if they don't hit their quota for their revelation of the method? Like if they don't put this many 77s here, if they don't put this many 33s here, if they don't tell you, you know, what they're going to do with this many like
Sorry.
clues, like what do they think is going to happen? And like, what if they're like at 76, he's like, oh, I need to hit 77 today. Like how stressed out is he? You know what I mean? Like, it's very interesting to think about the elite trust fund dork mentality. Cause you guys got to think about, if you were in charge of running the world for thousands of years, and now it's your turn, what would be your biggest stress? Your stress would be fucking it up for the entire legacy of your entire ancient family, right? 100%. So as things are becoming more and more out there, I mean, these guys have to ramp it up because they're getting more and more stressed that, it's going to come to an end, and that's why I believe these resets are all about. They have to do a reset, and so many, because some people figure it out. People, they're just, and I think there's a weapon that causes these resets too, that is ancient, that we don't know about, and that's why they let us have our guns, because in the end, it's not going to matter. I know I'm bouncing all over the place, but
no, you're good, brother. Bounce. No,
Jules
dude,
can handle. He can handle this type of information, right? So I can.
You're on gray pilled.
Yeah.
Go schizo, dude. Like, seriously, don't hold back. We got a lot to talk about, man. Yeah, so I believe that these Anunnaki deities are basically archetypes that we carry with us as humans, or as who we are. If you read these stories, I mean, man, I can't tell you in my past how much I've aligned with some of these fallen beings. But yeah, man, it's hard to try. It's hard to find a picture. Well, I'm trying to find a picture of Semyaza so we can pull him up, like a depiction of him. But
I'll be honest, like I've only ever heard Semyaza worshipped in one movie. While I've heard Azazel, Lilith, Ishtar. Yeah, in the movie Noah, you'll hear him say, "But Semyaza,"
what's up,
and
faggot?
he'll say it a couple times, right? And
yeah.
So he says Semyaza in that movie, but Azazel and Lilith and Venus and Ishtar and Aphrodite and the other fallen angel, especially the feminine version of, because what people need to realize is that the devil essentially is a male and feminine fallen angel. They work together. They work together, and they're almost treat each other as equals, even though it would seem Semyaza is the true leader. But Ishtar, Lilith does so much worship, and there's so much worship going on. For example, going back to the show Frasier, his ex-wife was called Lilith, and he always referred to her as a demon, right? And whenever she was in town, the spiritual lady would get headaches, right? The other day, I was watching a movie on Netflix where the terrorist group was named Adam, and the leader of the terrorist group was Lilith, right?
No shit.
So
John,
this is everywhere.
In the Sumerian text, there is two Adams. There's Adapa and Adamu. Now, Adapa, he's the second Adam. Apparently, he was a king in Sumeria and a seafarer. Like, he sailed a bunch. And apparently Lilith was a daughter. Her name was Lalitu. She was a daughter of the deity Nergal and Erishkigal, which would be Persephone and Anubis, Hades. But she was basically the niece of Ishtar, Inanna, the sister of
Inanna. And there's a reason that they're doing that video. They're doing that video in the Egyptian temple of Ishtar, right? If you watch that video, and he's doing Inanna. I mean, they're so, for as dumb as they are, we can't deny that they've been super clever for so long, and the internet really has exposed, for the uninitiated, we now have information at our fingertips that people would have to kill someone to get back in the day, right? They'd have to be initiated. But now, because of the internet and because of the way we're able to research esoteric information, we're able to find this stuff out without having to go through what these trust fund dorks ancestors had to go through, which another reason why they hate us even more, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, dude. Ishtar, I think, uh, definitely. I mean, when you read these stories of her, she was apparently, uh, like a fucking warrior princess. What my co-host Adrian West tells me on my show Elohim Etymology, which I have to get you on there because even though if you don't subscribe to the whole ancient aliens theory, which I don't know. It could be real. It couldn't be real. I always question everything, but these stories line up a lot. There's a lot of truth in them, right? Um, but yeah, man, no, you should definitely come on. But
I'm more subscribed to the idea that these things have always just been here. Like, and
no, they,
we've shared this space with them always, and they've kind of been manipulating, things from the get-go. And even in the Bible, that's they tell you this is Satan's realm, and they are always jumping back and forth. It's like, oh, the demons are in hell, but then, oh, wait a minute, they're here wandering because they have no place to go. And this is why, personally, I subscribe to Christ, but I'm kind of more of a reincarnationist because I kind of believe what the elite believe. I believe that this is hell, and you're going to keep coming back here until you
I think
find
you're right.
Christ,
I think
right?
you're
Until
right.
you find the way to ascend out of this
Absolutely.
little matrix. And I think the only way to do that is through Christ. And
Absolutely.
and that has nothing to do with any religions, names, whether you call
No.
it Christ or Yeshua, whether, no matter what the name is, the intention to know your creator and to
Yes,
know
dude.
and
The
to know is
intention. It's
they'll know
all about intention.
he knows, like the creator knows, right? And knows that you're on the side of love. And you can interchange, like, I'm not going to argue with people about names of gods. And
Yeah.
just like, you can say just love, like, I'm on the side of love. Like, are you
Hell
on the
yeah.
side of love, or are you
I
on the
love
side of
that.
control, lies, and this and that? And whether Christ was real or not doesn't even matter to me, because I subscribe
It
to
still exists
yeah,
regardless.
right, the energy of that whole concept exists through me, and I
Yeah,
want
man.
I want to be a part of it,
It's an
and I want
amazing
to
thing.
live through that. And so it's very interesting, because when you study these philosophers, they like Plato, they talk about how there's this way to get closer to God and almost like be on the level of the ether when you're doing martial arts and training, right? So I think that's why martial arts and training is so important, no matter if you're doing gymnastics or lifting weights or just running, when you're training and you're pushing your body and you get in like this tunnel vision. I think you'll get really close to God in those moments when it's just you and the Lord in your body, and you're bringing your soul and your mind and your spirit all together. And, look, I never even thought of I'd be able to jump rope on a balance board in my 20s or 30s. It wasn't, and then it was something I started in my 40s.
I've
So,
gotten a little better at jumping rope, man. I tried it the other day. I have a couple out back and surprised
yeah.
myself. It's like, oh fuck.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
if you try and you stick with something, you'll probably be shocked how much better at it you'll be than when you first started it. You know what I mean? Like, and that goes with anything. If you stick with it, you'll have a little bit of imposter syndrome at first, but then your confidence will grow, and you'll realize that you're where you're supposed to be, or where God has put you. You'll find that out in your journey. That's what life's all about.
Yeah, man. That was beautifully put, John.
Well,
um,
thanks, Jules.
yeah, man. No, I felt that. Um, but yeah, dude. No, so you had called Semyaza by other names when I was listening to your episode on Tinfoil Hat. I don't know who you were referring to.
Well, what I was referring to is this rebranding that the elite do with everything so much, and obviously Aleister Crowley is one of the biggest ultimate trust fund dorks that these guys still worship, and I think it shows in their worshiping still of this 77 number, which they put in almost every single event since Aleister Crowley's death. Now, if you go
Do
back,
you want to kind of explain the 77? We have some people watching. Not too many people because I'm not streaming on X anymore. I'm not paying for that shit.
okay, so Aleister Crowley wrote this book called Liber Oz, which
Liber
translates
77, right?
to Book 77.
Right.
Book
I'm familiar with
77.
that. Yeah.
And what he's saying is like when you see 77 and 42 everywhere, then you'll know
42 is the
Dark Mother.
Dark Mother, right?
Which I believe is Ishtar,
Ishtar.
is Lilith, is, and it's just this rebranding,
You're absolutely right.
It's just this
you're
rebranding.
Absolutely right.
So what he says is when you see 77, 42, and 42 everywhere, you'll know that the goat of Mendez and the Dark Mother have arrived.
The
right?
Baphomet, the image of the Baphomet. Yeah.
Exactly. So now they've rebranded again to go with what the who are the guys back in the day that protected the Grail? I can't remember. The Templars.
The Knights Templars?
Yeah, the Templars worship the Baphomet allegedly, right? That's what they tell us, right? Now I'll be the first to tell everyone right now that if it's in a history book and it's mainstream, I probably don't subscribe to that anymore. Okay, just so you know.
Right.
I know the narrative, I know the story, but I probably don't believe that version of it quite so much, right? So when people try to say, oh, he's wrong about the etymology of science, it comes from this, I'm going to respond to, you're still believing the narrative, huh? That's what I'll say, right?
Etymology holds so much more weight than people know. Bro.
I can guarantee you that the word science comes from the word seance, which is a ritual to invoke a spirit on another dimension, another realm.
Yo, John Lee dropping fucking knowledge, guys.
And so, but the narrative will say that the Latin word for it is to know, and it comes from this and that. And Gnosis, I promise,
right?
I promise you that is not what they're doing there. Just like horizon is Horus rising.
Holy shit.
Like people don't realize that this is all part of this etymology. And when you study etymology, to me, it's game over, right? It's game over because it's the last step of that you realize that they are mocking you with revelation of the method, not only with movies, not only with propaganda and news stories, but also the words that you say every day. And look, it doesn't mean that you have to stop saying words, because I think intention is very, very important in your life. And that doesn't mean you had intentions to go to the gym and then you didn't show up. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about
speak things into the universe.
Maybe the word Jesus is paying homage to Iesus, this Greek fallen angel, right?
Shit, man.
Right? Maybe that is the case, but the creator is going to know that you are not praying to any bad fallen angels, that you are trying to walk with God and the walk of love. You know what I mean? And so your intention is really important there. And when people say, oh, the way to hell is paved with good intentions, I really do believe that's like a reverse psyop that they're running on people all the time, And I just heard Stu Peters on Tinfoil Hat, and I think that guy's got it all wrong too. He's so like adamantly, like, into his side, you know, that everyone else is wrong no matter what their intentions. And, you know, I can guarantee you right now that Christ wouldn't want anyone going around judging anyone and telling them they're going to hell. I can tell you that right fucking now. I can tell everyone that right now. So I can say that confidently without talking to any pastors or anybody else, because if he really existed, you know, he's not wanting people walking around and judging people. You need to look into yourself and try to better yourself every day, and don't be
Absolutely.
wasting your energy and paying attention to in judging other people. So, you know, I try not to do that as much as possible. Nobody's perfect, but I try to focus on my family and myself, and then go outward from there and focus on helping people, not tearing people down, you know. And the only time I'm going to be hurting someone is if we signed a contract, and, you know, then they're going to get paid for their services, and, you know, one of us are probably going to get hurt. But it'll be all, they knew what they were getting themselves into.
Yeah, dude. No, a couple things that I really wanted to touch on. The 42. You flip that around, that's 24, right? So you got the A24 movies. You know
Oh
what I'm
yeah,
talking
see, there
about?
you go.
Yeah.
100%, that's what's going
I,
on. And
yeah. Cursed
what
movies.
the story is that, you know, let's go over 77. I'll blow some of the people's minds real quick with some
Do it.
stats, you know.
Go for it.
But, you know, the 77th Congress, you know, in 1941 on September 11th, the 77th Congress had their groundbreaking ceremony for the Pentagon on the 77th parallel. And then they built the Pentagon 77 feet high with 77 5,500 windows. And then exactly 60 years later, on the same day, September 11th, 2001, they tell us what plane hit the Pentagon. Flight 77,
Flight
which was in
77, yeah.
which was in the air for how long? 77 minutes exactly,
Holy
right?
shit, dude.
And then American Airlines flight hit the floor on the World Trade Center. What floor? The 77th floor,
77.
right? Okay. So I just gave you 5, 6 77s and just the beginning of 9/11, because we're not done. But the 42 comes in because they tell you that the 77th, the flight 77 hit the Pentagon at a 42-degree angle. How they figure that out, I don't fucking know, but they tell you that, right? And
Yeah.
to me, I believe it was a missile, right? But the ritual is all about what you believe. And if they constantly are telling you it's flight 77, which was in the air for 77 minutes, that's what's going to be burned into your brain until you see the video of the missile and there's no plane parts anywhere. But it doesn't matter, because that's not how they operate. Like, it's all about belief and getting us to believe a certain narrative. And so, what was the name of the mobile command center that took off 7 minutes after the first plane hit from Andrews Air Force Base? It was Venus 77. And Venus, everyone should know. Yep. So we got
Ishtar 77.
Ishtar 77.
Yeah.
And Venus is esoterically symbolized as a 7-sided star. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
and I think Venus, I'm pretty sure, is also representative of Lucifer, the light bearer, the morning star, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So you
Got a
got
lot tied in there.
Venus 77. Now let's go to how many victims, right? There was 2977. How many first responders died? 343. That's 7 times 7 times 7.
Yo.
Bro, okay, now let's go to Oklahoma City, right? Oklahoma City. It sits on Route
Are you
77.
talking about the OKC bombing?
Yeah, Oklahoma City bombing.
Shout
I'm
out
about to.
Jose Galison. I'm having him on here in a couple weeks. Everybody watch Already Dead on Tuesdays at 8:30 Central. I am running the production behind it now, so y'all come kick it and call in and fucking talk to me or some shit.
Is he in Oklahoma City?
No, but you should go and watch. Okay, so Terrence Yeeke, this black man who was a first responder on the scene, basically saw things that he didn't agree with and was like, "Oh,
Oh yeah,
these people did this,"
he
and
was
then he
killed.
was found. Yeah, so Jose has he has the No Way Jose show, and he has Already Dead with my buddy Austin Picard. And they kill it, dude. And I'm running production on that at every Tuesday now. Their
Okay.
producer couldn't do it anymore, but his the main thing he talks about is the OKC bombing. He's talked to Tanya, I think Tanya Yiki. Yeah, I think that's her name.
Well, this will be
Which is
perfect.
Terrence's wife, and so you should go watch some of his deep dives on it, man. It's
Well, this will be
very.
perfect, and also it'll be a tribute to the man
He's coming on next month.
who lost his life just trying to tell the truth and fill us in about what's going on. Because remember, before the internet broke a lot of barriers, they used to kill a lot of us decipherers who were trying to tell you guys what was going on. But now there's so many, and there's so much information out there. They just flood the information. But here you go. Here's Oklahoma City. Without having to hear any witnesses, I can tell you and prove to you right now through sheer the number 77 that this is a ritual to some sort of paying homage to whatever Aleister Crowley is talking about. 100% guaranteed, right? Because in all of these events, you'll find these main numbers. 77, without a doubt, is the main number, which I believe is Semyaza. 42, Ishtar. 33 is the fallen angel group as a whole, right? Is like the whole group, right? It's 33% of them, 200 fallen angels, a third of the fallen angels, right? So that's the whole group. And why did they come up with that number? Because the fallen angels fell at Mount Hermon, and that's at 1/3 fell at Mount Hermon, which is on
was all I think called the Cedar Mountains as well. I think Hermon was a peak on the Cedar Mountains when you read the Sumerian text. It's in Lebanon, right?
But the coordinates are 33 degrees, right? So 33 fell at 33 degrees. 33% fell at 33 degrees. And this is how people need to realize is that, like a detective, the more you research this stuff, the more these levels are unlocked and they just start lining up. And you can just, no one could convince me that I'm wrong. Not Sam Tripoli, not Alex Jones, not you, not anybody. Not anybody could convince me that I don't know what's going on here, because I literally am just going by what these trust fund dorks themselves are telling you. They're telling you. So let's go over Oklahoma City. It's happened on the same day as Waco, right? As the Waco one. It happened on the Alfred Murray building, which opened in 1977. It sits right next to Route 77, which runs right through Oklahoma City. Timothy McVeigh escaped in a 77 Ford Mercury, and he was arrested 77 minutes after the bombing exactly, right?
Oh my God, dude.
The ATF and FBI said that they used aluminum powder, which increased the bomb by what they said. This is their words, 77%, right? They released a 77-page report, which identified 77 victims by DNA. Oklahoma City is exactly 77 months before 9/11, right? And it also, what was the other one? The other dude, Terry Nichols, was arrested with a cache of 77 guns. Now, while you're looking this up, you'll see in the newspaper clippings, it's like almost 80 plus. Like, and I couldn't find a real number. I had to go to the court document to find the 77 guns. The actual court document, I had to go to find the 77 guns, everyone. So just so you know. So I think it's impossible that all these 77s with all the most crazy terrorist attacks. I just gave you all the ones from 9/11. I gave you a bunch from Oklahoma City. Waco, how many Branch Davidians were killed? 77. It sits right on Route 77. How many acres were left over when the ATF burned it to the ground? They tell you 77 acres were left over, right? These are the three biggest terrorist attacks on pretty much the United States soil since the 90s up into 2001. And I just named off like 30 77s that it's literally impossible for all those coincidences to happen, because a lot of them are construction. And if you know anything about construction, you'll know that there's a lot of planning, a lot of planning. So they planned to build the Pentagon 77 feet high, and they planned to build it on the 77 parallel, and they planned to build Oklahoma City and open it in 1977. And look at the Francis Scott Key Bridge that was just taken out in Baltimore. People ask me, what's going on with that? I was like, well, I don't know. It's not whatever they tell you on the news. And I'm sure there's a 77 somewhere. What year did it open? 1977. You know, so I mean, it's obviously just a coincidence, like the conspiracy extremists just said. You know what I mean? It's obviously a coincidence. But Jules, the one that scares me the most, and the one that should scare everyone, is I was looking on X and I was doing my research for my book, and I saw a bunch of cops run out of Uvalde and they were throwing up. And I was like, oh shit, I haven't even looked at that one. And it took me 0.0 seconds to find the first article that said the gunman was left unchallenged for how long? 77 minutes. And then they released, I sent that to my friend that's completely asleep, that doesn't want to believe anything I say, but want to know what they sent back? Look what I found. And they released a 77-page report right after the shooting. So if everyone remembers this one, this is the one in Texas where the cops were body slamming parents because they were going to run in because the cops were just standing around listening to gunshots. They were just standing around listening to gunshots. And what they tried to say was the chief of police was out of town and the backup chief was just retarded. Right. And you know for a fact that's not true, because all police will tell you that in a school shooting situation, they are trained to run to the target, even if they are by themselves, to try to take it out. They're all trained for that. So they all were told to hang back. And it's no coincidence that it was a 77-page report, and it was exactly 77 minutes that the gunman was left unchallenged. And I'll go on, because Pearl Harbor, how many sailors died on the Arizona? 1177. 1177, really? Right?
Okay.
And the number of magic is 11. That's why it's 9/11, it's 7/11, it's that Aleister Crowley chaos magic.
Yeah, these numbers are used and on these certain dates, basically to invoke these spirits, like what you were saying. You think they're trying to bring about Semyaza?
Yeah, or at least giving a shout out to be like, hey, we're doing what you want us to do, right? Yeah, we're doing this for you. And it's so many of our wars are started with 77. World War II, after the Arizona and Pearl Harbor, Public Act 77. The 77th Congress invokes Public Act 77, right? And then we go to war. What ended World War II? Boxcar dropped Fat Boy on Nagasaki. What number is painted on that plane? 77.
Fuck, dude.
I'm not playing.
Now what? You're not.
Now
that's Desert, the fucking scary thing.
Desert Storm. Know? Desert Storm. House Joint Resolution 77 is what sent troops to Iraq in 1991. House Joint Resolution 77. What about Iraqi freedom in 2003? It's called Operation Iraqi Freedom, but it passed in Congress with a vote 77-23.
Dude.
Let's go Vietnam. The Gulf of Tonkin Resolution. This one's kind of clever. Everyone in the Senate was for the war except 2 senators voted no. And one of them was the 7th governor of the territory of Alaska, who is Ernest something, and he was 77 years old.
How do you remember all this? Because
Because
I do it too with other things, but that's a lot of sevens, bro.
well, one day I was in here and I looked up after the Evalde one and I go, Lord, I'm not looking at another 77 tonight. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done with this book right now. I'm done doing this research. I'm done with these fallen angel fucktards. I'm done with these trust fund dorks. I'm going to go out and watch the new movie with Conor McGregor. It was Roadhouse, the new remake. The setting is the Florida Keys. And I just wanted to see how crazy it would be. What's the only mile marker that Jake Gyllenhaal walks by? 77. I have to pause it. I pause it. I look at my wife and she goes, what the fuck is going on? And I go, well, I guess that's the Lord letting me know that I don't tell him a fucking thing. I don't tell him anything. He'll let me know when 77. Yeah, he'll let me know. And I took that right away. And it also proves my point is that there's nothing that goes in these movies on accident. I mean, how many movies are they worshiping 77 in? You've got Natural Born Killers at the beginning. What's on the TV? 77 Sunset Strip, right? In the movie with Tom Cruise, that's about the Illuminati parties. What's it called?
Eyes Wide Shut.
Got Eyes Wide Shut. She goes, dinner 7, and he goes 7. I don't know,
dude.
Right, so it's always there. I mean, and Godzilla was a good one. My friend Gio really likes Godzilla. It took me 0.5 seconds to put together that Abaddon, the monster in Godzilla that comes out next to the Devil's Tower, is the same Abaddon in the Bible.
The abyss.
From the abyss that comes out where CERN is built right over. Just so everyone knows, CERN is built right over the same spot where Abaddon, aka Apollyon, is supposed to come out of the abyss.
Dog. And they're trying to invoke that deity, that entity.
Lord protect us.
Please.
And what is the number of the outpost that Monarch has set up right where Abaddon comes out? Monarch Outpost 77, right? And if you look through all the monsters in Godzilla, many of them are just biblical characters, like Noah's dad, Methuselah. How is Methuselah a monster, right? So there's a total like inversion going on in one sense, and then they're trying to invoke other things going on in another sense. So these guys are clever for as retarded and as dumb as they are. They have had a plan for a long time that worked on our grandmas and our grandpas and our dads and their dads before them. And it's only now that because we have this thing that they kind of miscalculated on, what I believe they miscalculated on, because these dinosaurs let it out before they knew what was going to happen. And I think they're in for a world of hurt, in the end. Their rituals and their magic tricks won't really work on people who train martial arts every day. Like let's think about it. Bill Gates could sacrifice 100 cows, a bunch of kids, and do a bunch of spiritual invocations and rituals. And if it was him and I on a desert island, and there's only one banana, that's my fucking banana. That's my banana.
That's my banana, motherfucker.
And I'm going to eat it real slow. I'm going to look him right in the eye when I eat it. And I'm like, where's your assassins now? Where's your spirits now?
I love your confidence, man.
They don't exist. They don't exist because you're cloaked in the armor of the Lord, right? And when you have that, then you have nothing to fear.
You have everything. Yeah.
Yeah, and you have nothing to fear, right? Yeah. And that's where I'm at in my life is I'm cloaked in the armor of the Lord and I'm doing God's work. And ever since I've been, on that path, my life has got exponentially better every single day. And while we're all going through, some sort of white knuckling it through life, which is pretty normal. We're here to struggle. We're here to learn lessons. And if you have no struggle, you better go to the gym and fucking find some and put yourself through it, because, you need it.
Yeah, man. Definitely. And some people get that in other ways. Like I was telling you earlier, I went through opiate addiction and went through Dark Night of the Soul. Really it experienced some things that no one should experience. But it made me who I am today, and it made me the man that I am, and it made me stronger. But I couldn't have done that without the Spirit of Christ, without having that Christ, that you can call it Christ consciousness, Holy Spirit. It exists, right? We know it exists. We felt it. Everyone should embrace it, right? I mean, what other way is there? I've been an atheist. I dabbled in occultic things when I was younger, and there's nothing good that comes out of it. Not unless you're sacrificing children and stuff, right?
I mean, I wouldn't know what kind of good comes out of anything that they do, because if you follow what's gone on with their indoctrination, Jules, they go through something pretty bad as 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds. All of them get locked in a room for 5 days, and they don't get any water.
Satanic ritual abuse.
Yeah, and they don't understand what's happening to them, and then they grow up these psychopaths. And while we're being indoctrinated in one way by the public school system, they're being indoctrinated through this psychopathic, thalemic, fallen angel, things that are going. Right. So, where everybody's just, struggling. But I wouldn't know anything. I don't want to know anything about what they're into. There's nothing they're into that I'm into. I'm into, barbecues. I'm into watching my kids play in the pool. I'm into running. I'm into pushing myself, and figuring out what type of limitations I can break from my body and my mind. How much can I jump rope? How fast? Can I do some new trick? Can I, how long can I be beating up these 20-year-olds when I'm in my 40s? The stuff like that. That's what I'm here to push myself to do. Whatever they're into, it's not for me. And I can tell you that it wouldn't help them in a one-on-one fight against me either. Nothing that they do would help them other than sheer attrition and repetition of training, right?
Yeah.
Like the monks, I think the monks have it right. All they do is train martial arts, pray, and meditate all day long. And they stay away from all these like lustful type desires that
that's
people,
the key. It's so hard, man. A lot of people are somewhat trapped, right, in this material, physical world. And you could say we all are in some way or another. No one's perfect, but it's
absolutely
real
not.
sad
We're
to see
all
society
struggling.
just fucking go downhill so fast, man. I mean, I've never seen anything like it right now. So it's important, I think, man, to talk about the shit we're talking about, and
well, I think it's always been there,
these deities for who they really are, because everyone thinks they just worship Satan, right?
Right.
I said earlier, Satan could be a number of deities. So to out these entities like this, I think is doing God's work in a way.
And like I said, I think that's what the rebranding is all about, because they don't want us to have the power over them, and knowing their real name holds power over them. And it's very interesting, because even the atheist guy that studies the demons, which I don't know how you could be a demonologist and be atheist, which is very weird to me, but he he said that this is his own words, and you can hear this from Tony Merkel. He
What
says,
the fuck, John? Continue. I was about to bring up a confessionals episode dealing with this, but continue.
yeah, so that's how God talks to us through these type of synchronicities,
Yes,
right?
yes.
But
I've learned that after podcasting for about 7 months, man. It happens more and more. It's incredible. But sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
But then on that episode, this guy lets you know, he's like, now look, I don't subscribe to Jesus, but for some reason these entities don't like it when you say his name, and I'm just like, what the fuck? Do you even hear what you're even saying? Do you understand the words that just came out of your fucking mouth? And it's like the guy can't even like comprehend what he's saying because he's so fighting the idea of a God, right? He's
Right,
so
right.
fighting the idea of a spiritual war, but he's a demonologist. And it just goes to prove that my theory on intention is right, because even if
It's absolutely right, John.
even if the word Jesus is wrong, they know that we're talking about the creator. They know we're talking about the creator. So
Yeah.
we don't need to fight over the etymology, over our intentions, right? Whether it's Allah, Jesus, whatever, we're talking about the creator.
Yeah,
right?
It's just like when people say amen or amen. A lot of people say that comes from Amen Ra, right?
And that would be
who
paying,
is Marduk.
would be paying homage to some
But
Egyptian
it's
fallen angel
about the
fuckery.
intention. When you say amen and you know who you're praying to, you know what energy you're connecting with. That's what it's all about.
Right. And that's why I say
love that
hallelujah.
Yeah, man.
And that's why I say hallelujah, everyone, because I still, like, even though I know my intentions are proper and with Christ, I'll avoid amen just for that very reason, just in case.
You can have power over that deity, right?
Right.
Um,
Right. They have no power over us because we're cloaked in the armor of the Lord and we have nothing to fear. And, that's why they avoid trying to take over bodies like us, you know what I mean,
Dude.
in my opinion, because we have too much strength within us to, we're not easily manipulated anymore, like these people that are still cheering for everything Taylor Swift is doing on stage.
Yo, that's some of the worst, man.
I mean, she went from singing about Tim McGraw and to doing full on seance rituals and witchcraft on stage, and literally putting out like demonic, ancient, esoteric symbols
Yes.
in everything that they do.
She's
and
one
if
of the
people,
biggest ones. And in my opinion, from what I've seen, she's one of the biggest ones. And this spirit of Ishtar has come back full fledged in the fourth wave feminism shit, right? Like
Yeah.
it because like I said, she was a whore and a warrior. So she was some brave woman, quote unquote, speaking her truth. What the fuck ever. The shit that a lot of these like OnlyFans chicks are all about.
Yeah, it's all about that. And what is Ishtar's main power, everyone, is to turn a man into a woman and a
Holy
woman into a
shit,
man.
dude.
That's their main power, right?
Her
And
father
so,
was Sin, the moon god, and a lot of their followers apparently were like fucking trannies, right?
exactly.
Yeah,
And this is
bro.
all
How the
goes in.
fuck?
This is what this
bro? How is it that there's more and more shit that I've heard no one talk about that I have like, that I'm sorry, my boy conspiracy extremist is leaving ridiculous comments. Y'all ain't
Swifties.
Swifties, no. Dude.
She has no ass.
Maybe. But dude, I find it, like you said, the synchronicities lining up blow my mind sometimes, man.
Well, that was like the 77 when I was like, I'm not fucking looking at another one tonight. And within just 15 minutes of watching that movie, it's the only mile marker that they show. They obviously put that in the movie on purpose because there's not one thing ever put into a movie on accident, right? So I could tell you that right now. Cinema and movies were created mostly to further this Ishtar worship and this transgender movement. For example, in 1984, you had Conan the Destroyer, right? Who was the biggest, baddest, action hero looking guy. And then just 10 years later, he was the first guy to give birth on the big screen and actually give birth in this movie called Junior with Danny DeVito. They try to make it seem like he could carry the baby in his abdomen and then give birth to it through cesarean section. Right.
They're trying to
and
do
it was,
that right now. These men
and
are
it's
trying
like
to
a
have
big
babies.
joke. It was all a big joke in
Fucking
1993, 1994. Right. But look what's happened. And ever since then, you have the movies building up more and more, like Tu Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar with Patrick Swayze and Wesley Snipes. You have the Tooth Fairy with The Rock or Vin Diesel or whatever. You got all these movies where these guys had to go through this ritual.
Oh, dude.
And look at this most recent one with Barry Keoghan called Saltburn, where they tell the story of an elite trust fund dork house.
They were just boo-fooing each other in that one, right?
Oh yeah, it's just it's
sodomy.
It's literally so messed up. Like, and I watched it just because I knew that there was some Moloch worship going on there in the labyrinth.
Yeah.
And if people don't know, Ishtar and Moloch worked together by what they would do is they'd have these big orgies in the temple of Ishtar. And then 9 months later, they would sacrifice those babies that were made from those orgies into the fires of the Molech. Right. So,
we're going to do an episode on we're probably going to do a little deep dive on the Canaanite pantheon because those names are still worshipped or still prayed to in a lot of
football, baseball, basketball,
right? So
volleyball. You think that's an accident that all of our sports?
Oh yeah, dude. And sports are just there to keep us distracted.
But we're paying homage to. We're calling them ball. They're all named by ball because we're paying homage to ball,
dude.
Right
there you go. So Marduk in the Bible was known as Bel, the god of thunderstorms. His son, being Nabu, was Nebo. It's crazy how the etymology lines up, dude. And so Marduk, I think, is worshipped today as Baal, because Baal just means Lord, or it comes from Bel or Belu, which just means Lord. But it basically became its own like egregore, its own deity. People pray to it enough, it will have
manifest itself.
Yeah, for sure, man. So I think like Ishtar, who is Marduk's cousin, or I guess maybe his niece. Like I said, when you get into these Sumerian stories, it turns them into entities, like a family tree. And so me and my buddy Adrian, that's what I was telling you earlier, I'd love for you to come on to Elohim Etymology. We do an episode on a Sumerian deity, and we trace it. Like we look at the Book of Enoch, we look at the Bible, we look at the ancient alien shit, just because that's where the Sumerian stories kind of came from with Sitchin. But you have to question that as well. And so we compare it to all these other texts, and it's real fun, dude. I think you'd like it.
Yeah, I mean, this is my jam, man. I mean, nobody wants to have conversations like this. And then I'm like, well,
I'm here.
I mean,
I'm here,
also that George Bush was 77 years old during 9/11, and then they put a 77
Herbert
on
Walker, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And he was also it was 1977 when they put him in charge of the CIA, right?
Fuck, dude.
Right. And then what's the number? What's the number? What's the number on George Bush's aircraft carrier?
77.
Absolutely. Of course, it had to be. Right. So they're obsessed with all this stuff. JFK's license plate was GG. That's 77. Kobe Bryant's daughter was GG. That's 77.
Listen to this. G.G. Allen.
GG Allen.
The punk. You don't know who G.G. Allen is?
No.
Oh,
It's,
that made me look like a piece of shit. He's
but
a
it's,
fucking he was a punk artist back in
but he
the
died.
80s. He was a terrible person. He used to throw shit on people at his concerts and piss on them and fuck girls on
Oh, okay.
stage. Yeah, no. So his name was
Was it-
G.G. Allen.
Was that his real name?
No, his name was Jesus Christ Allen, dog. Holy shit, John Lee.
Holy shit.
I haven't even thought about this. Look up. Okay, motherfucker. All right. I didn't call you motherfucker.
Holy cow, look at that. Let's go. John McCain was rescued from Vietnam by Navy Task Force 77.
Wait, what'd you say about John McCain?
He was rescued by Navy Task Force 77, allegedly.
Dude. Okay, here we go. All right, I'm about to share this with you. Hold on. Okay. I don't know how that opened up in a different tab. Everybody watching, I hope you're enjoying. We're having a fucking blast. This is fucking awesome, dude.
Also,
I'm
everyone,
so
I was
happy
born on 7/8/1982. That's almost 7/7.
So birth name, Jesus Christ Allen, right?
Wow.
Yeah,
And then he changed it to GG.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because look at him. He's a total Aleister Crowley, like he's got the A Anarchy A right here. This guy's a total Aleister Crowley follower. I bet if I read about him, let's see here. He probably liked Anton LaVey or
I mean, he looked
Aleister
exactly
Crowley.
like Anton LaVey, dude. And this guy was a sadist. He was a rapist.
Oh, wait, look at that. From September 19, wait, the band separated in 1977. From September, he fronted Jabbers.
Holy shit, dude. See?
Yeah, it's very interesting how they use this kind of marker as something like, I mean, the 7/7 London, the 7/7 London bombings were like the London's 9/11, right? It was on July 7th. You know, I mean, it never ends. You know, here's an interesting one for everyone. The Atari came out on 9/11, 1977. And Atari comes from the Japanese word ataru, which means to strike the target, right? And then it came with the game Combat, which is Arabic for jihad.
You said Ataru?
Ataru.
The Watchers in Africa were called the Netaru. Find that interesting.
Yeah, I mean they do that a lot too. They'll just add a letter onto something to make
etymology.
It seem...
They'll take a letter away, add it on. Sometimes change the whole word completely, but it still means.
Oh yeah, exactly. Subliminal messages like the Taco Bell gong, Balluminati, Balluminati. Exactly. Like they do it stuff all the Balenciaga. I mean, there's a good one.
Balenciaga, yeah.
I mean, that's a perfect example. They do this stuff all the time. And I believe that they're just rebranding these same main fallen angels that they pray to, you know, like Azazel.
Deities, different names.
Yeah, Azazel, you'll see that is worshipped in so many movies and shows. For example, X-Men First Class, the devil that can teleport is Azazel, right? In the movie with Denzel Washington called Fallen from like 1993, the demon's name is Azazel, right? What's the most recent one I saw where he's like, "Tell me your name, Satan"? It was called The Pope's Exorcist with Russell Crowe, right? The name of that demon is Asmodeus, right? And he calls it the king of hell. Wait a minute. If he's the king of hell, then who is Satan and who is the devil? If Asmodeus is the king of hell, then what are we really talking about here?
Yeah.
So people need to realize that they've thought about this from every angle. I mean, they had their Freemasons rewrite the Bible in 1607, right?
King
With
James.
the
Yeah.
King James
He was a
version,
33rd degree
you
Freemason.
know.
Yeah.
So I mean, if people need to realize that they've really fucked around here, but just keep Christ close to your heart and treat people how you want to be treated. And no matter what they're trying to do to you, you'll be fine. It's like that Jelly Roll song. It's not okay, but it's going to be all right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. Oh, dude. Dude, we could go for hours on this stuff. I do think when you get into the king or the princes of hell, you get into Beelzebub, who is Marduk, Baal-zebul, changed, and when you get the Beelzebub from Bel, from that original name from Baal, Bel or Belu, like I said, and then Semyaza or Semyaza, I think he's Samael. That's another name for him. My buddy Todd Cave thinks that's Inky, but Inky is basically the Lucifer archetype.
Which I think, you could make an argument that, if you read the book of Enoch, that is also Semyaza, right? Is that archetype, right? So
Yeah.
I could see how it could easily go either way. And I don't think it makes a lot of sense to argue about who's who and
Oh, yeah.
where this denomination is here or there. But what I will say is that, look, get off of whatever the mainstream narrative that they've been teaching you in everything from religion to science to history to modern politics, which is literally just the entertainment division of their control board, right? Get out of that and start being a detective for yourself and start learning to trust yourself in your own research more than what someone has been paid to tell you a lie. For example, the food pyramid still has cereal at the top, and we all know that's bullshit. We all know that's a lie because they got, in mostly all the cereals, they got HIV and herpes medication, TBH, in every single one, right? There's only a very small section of the grocery store that doesn't have this preservative, which is used mostly in herpes medication and HIV. And I try to ask the doctors that I know and these people, I'm like, why are they putting this in there? And he goes, well, I don't know that they are. And then I show them that they are. And then he looks at me the doctor looks at me very perplexed. And he's like, huh, that is weird. He's like, what does it say? Oh, it's a preservative. I'm like, well, couldn't they use a different one? Why they got to use the herpes one? That's to break you, man. That's to mock you. That's revelation of the method. That's what they do. They're laughing at you. That's why in all of your toilet paper, there's chlorine, formaldehyde, and PFAs, right? There's only a small section at Target, right? There's only a small section at Target that has the toilet paper that doesn't have those three main chemicals. And think about it, during the pandemic, when grandparents were fighting over toilet paper, the elite were laughing at them because they were laughing at these people fighting over who gets to poison their butthole directly, right? So they've been mocking you from every single angle, from every single way, and you just need to start like being a little more vigilant with your thoughts and discernment, right? And start using your brain for yourself and your family. And don't take anybody's word for it. Don't take my word for it. Go research everything I said. And if you find an alternative theory to what I'm saying or alternative explanation, dig a little bit deeper. You may get to the page that I got to. It's not going to be on the first page of Google. I can guarantee you that.
Nope.
Right.
You're
So
absolutely
they're controlling every narrative, guys. And you can ask me about anything and I'll tell you what it really was. And I can promise you it's not what they presented.
I think you're right, man. Yeah, I agree with you. I couldn't have said it better myself, to be honest with you. Um, I know it's late where you are, man. I'm sure you have to get out of here.
No, I
Um,
mean I'm good. I took a little nap earlier, so I mean if you want to go a little bit longer,
oh,
we
hell
can.
yeah. Fuck
If
yeah.
there, if
Yeah,
there's
sure, man.
anything, if there's anything, if people have any questions or anything. Look, my grandpa at one time was the lead test pilot for the entire Navy, and we used to have astronauts over to the house. I mean, my dad water skied with Alan Shepard, and John Glenn was on the sailboat. And when John Glenn went back into space, how old was he? 77, just so you know. But um, but so like I used to worship these astronauts as a kid, right? And I used to think they were superhero types. And now I know that they're just Freemason liars that are presenting this matrix presentation to keep us all involved in a certain type of mind trap. And I don't worship these guys at all. And unfortunately, I'm sure my grandpa to become the lead test pilot, had to do a few of his own initiations that
You think
probably
he had to
wasn't.
take an oath?
I'm sure he had to do some initiations, because if you watch the interview with God, who is the lady's name? Her husband was George Griggs, and she was Kay Griggs, right? And she did an interview with their pastor that was 8 hours long, pretty much. And what she explained was her husband was a Marine, and he was stationed over in Lebanon, and he was in charge of being the liaison to the Lebanese king. But while he was over there, they were doing wet ops. And what was that? Well, he would go underneath a party boat and pop up with all of his Navy SEAL soldiers and mow down the party boat of Lebanese people, and then go back underneath. And then the Lebanese king would think that it was whoever they were fighting. And then they would keep selling guns to Lebanon from the Americans, right? And this
Yeah.
guy was in charge of these type of operations. But he would come home and get drunk, and he'd tell his wife about what was going on. And they would talk about these things that they would go on at the officers club, right? And let's just say that I remember hearing conversations about the officers club, which would have been 10 years before this George Griggs guy. And I never seen my grandpa tell my grandma to not another word, Sybil, not another word. I'd never seen that look on his face before. So I could tell you one thing: whatever was going on at the officers club, he didn't want people to know
Yeah.
either, right? So and that's a hard pill to swallow, right? And I think I got in an argument with one guy that was like, I don't believe my grandpa who worked for NASA could be lying. It's like, no, I don't think he's lying. I think he was put in front of a computer
I think
screen,
he was
and
lying too.
I think he's
Yeah.
looking at something, and maybe he didn't believe it, or maybe he did, but he just did his job, right?
Right.
Because, like when I put fights together at the casino, only I know how much the fighters are making in the fighter. Like the people out in the crowd can think that he's making a bunch of money, and then maybe he's only getting $500. You know what I mean? So, that's the esoteric knowledge that I get to have at those. It's the same thing as the people at Tesla who are in the board meeting. The guy that's the janitor, he's not in there. He's not privy to that information. He works
Right.
there. So they don't got to lie to everyone, and not everyone has to keep, or not everyone has to be in on it, is what I'm saying. It's like they'll just keep the presentation going for everyone, right? So no, I don't believe we went to the moon. I don't believe we can get past the firmament. I will never use the word flat earth, because
I hear you.
I think that's a psyop in itself, and I
Yeah.
try not to partake in any psyops. Some guys, like, I love Hibbler. I respect everything he's doing.
Yeah.
And
For
I've
sure.
had him on my show. But also, like, you're not going to hear me say flat earth. I'll say firmament. I completely agree with the concepts and all the proofs that they have, but I'm
I
just not
believe
going
that
to.
there's truth in the middle, that it may be flat and hollow at the same time. You
Oh
know.
yeah, I mean, Here's a good example, Jules. We know that Mount Everest is 30,000 feet high and the Marianas Trench is 30 feet deep. That's a 60,000 foot difference right there of elevation from
I thought it would
bottom
have been
to top.
77 for a second.
You said no more 77, so I didn't
Hey
want to make
man,
it too
if you want to
obvious.
throw one out there, brother, I'm right here. So have
Yeah,
at it,
well,
dude.
Columbine was 49 minutes long. That's 7 sevens. The Pulse nightclub shooting was 49 victims. That's 7 sevens. The most recent one with Donald Trump getting shot in the ear, the sniper that took out the gunman was shooting from a little like container that had the number 14 on it. That's 7+7. So I try to avoid where they're adding numbers together to get to the 77. I like it a lot more where it's just obvious, like in 9/11 and Oklahoma City, where it's obvious there's some trust fund dork fuckery going on. I mean, there's no way you can build something with the 77th Congress, build it 77 feet high, build it on the 77th parallel, build it with 7,700 windows, and then just by chance, what flight hits it? Flight 77, which is in the air for 77 minutes. And then that day, the mobile command center is Venus 77. That's impossible. That is literally impossible. Right there,
You would think so, yeah.
I just proved the whole narrative is a lie. I don't care what anyone says. You could say that, I'm just trying to manipulate the numbers to fit
I'm
my
inclined
narrative.
to believe you, to be
Yeah, you
dead
could.
honest with you, bro, because
Yeah,
this shit isn't a coincidence.
no.
It
Especially when you see
some
all the other
holy
numbers
fuck.
there too. I mean, Flight 93, because if you look on, if everyone if you're watching, go to Reddit right now and look up Thelema, right?
We can do it.
Which is the religion that Aleister Crowley created. And you will see all these Aleister Crowley nerd dorks greeting each other with the number 93 because that's their greeting. And they go 93. Oh, my demon is blah 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 blah. Some fucking bullshit, right? Because they've got nothing. The people are searching for something, and they're going on Reddit and finding Thelema and greeting each other with 93 and thinking Aleister Crowley, a guy that wrote poems about doing things to 3-year-olds, is
About
cool.
sodomizing children. Yeah.
There's nobody I want to fuck up more than people that think it's cool to hurt kids. Like, because those are the people that are definitely afraid of adult men like me who aren't afraid to speak their mind right away. Right? They'll
Yeah.
just be like, oh, I'm gonna walk on the other side of the street and go try to talk to this kid instead of dealing with me, which I think is the most depraved, cowardice, fucking evil piece of shit thing ever. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, why don't you be a
Absolutely.
real man and come speak to someone that's not afraid of you? But no, it's always the passive least resistance for these dorks.
Yeah, dude. It's despicable and yeah, he should be thrown in a fucking wood chipper. You know?
Anton LaVey had 77 infernal names in his satanic Bible.
Well, apparently his name was Anton Levy and he was a Talmudic Jew.
Oh, well, that wouldn't shock me. What's the address for the Jewish headquarters in New York? 77
Okay.
something. Yeah, it is. The World Shabbat, what's it called? The World Shabbat headquarters or something on 77 Blush.
Headquarters.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's nuts.
That's wild.
Princess Diana's jeweler worked at 77 Diamonds. The Georgia Guidestones are right next to the 777 farm, and they sit right on Route 77. Well, they
Okay.
did before they were destroyed. And don't think that was good, people. That they
That was the
destroyed that.
Rosicrucians that did that, right? R.C.
Right.
Christian, Rosicrucian Christian, the Rosie
Right.
Croy.
Exactly. And if you know anything about alchemy and these type of alchemical rituals, you'll
I
know
know
that
a little thing or two about alchemy, so
when they
please
destroy the
expand on it. If
when they destroy the talisman, which is what those things were. They were the talisman built to pay homage to the idea of the ritual that completes the ritual. So don't think that that's a good idea, that they're like, oh, it's so great that those things are destroyed. They did it. Like, they destroyed it probably and did it
was
on
part of
purpose.
their ritual. Yeah.
Yeah, it's part of their ritual, because to them it's completing the ritual, because they probably believe that that number is becoming closer to fruition as we get closer to this 2030 agenda. Right.
And they also believe that if they tell us things or their plans, that they will be forgiven. Their karma will be
yeah, the next life there. And what is it? What is it? Or do they believe that they're going to come back with a pine cone stuck up their ass, or like, what is it that, like, I'm always so
the
curious.
pineapple.
Yeah, I'm always so curious, if they don't hit their 77 quota, if they don't do this many sacrifices, if they don't do enough revelation method symbolism, what are they actually stressed out about? Like, I really have to know. Like, I would love to talk to one of these dorks just one-on-one and just be like, dude, what the fuck do you think is going to happen if you don't put 77 all over this? Like, and if you don't do this, like in the Patriot, that has a good one where he's hanging the chair, right? And he goes 9 pounds, 11 ounces, perfect. And then he sits in it and it just crumbles, right? And that came out.
Wait. Hold on.
In the movie The Patriot.
Yeah, at the beginning when he's making the chair.
Yeah, go to the beginning and watch him weigh the chair.
Well, we're on YouTube, so if I play that, we'll get a copyright.
Okay, so, but at the beginning, he puts the chair up on a scale.
Everybody go watch The Patriot, or go watch that scene.
The very beginning, and he puts it up on a scale, and it says 9. This came out just months before 9/11, and he puts 9 pounds, 11 ounces. Perfect. And then he sits in it, and it crumbles right. Oh, shit. Yeah, we already know, probably 77. He said, how many books in the Bible if you had the Dead Sea Scrolls? Probably 77. Right. Most likely it wouldn't. And I think also that would make a lot of sense, because they're inverting everything. I think 77 is not a bad number. I think that they've turned it into a bad number, and then they've now assigned it to this fallen angel, because I don't see it as much before Aleister Crowley as you do after, right? You see it in everything after Crowley dies. Everything after Crowley makes his prediction with his ritual in the pyramid, right? Where he talks to Aiwass, and Aiwass tells him of the age of Horus, which is coming. And then he writes his book 77, right? And then
Horus was a grandson of Marduk. So there you go, back to the same family, the same bloodline of these fallen angels.
Yeah, I believe it's all the same. I believe it's all the same thing. And I just subscribe to the Book of Enoch names. So when I'm
When I'm
explaining this, I'm always just saying Semyaza or Azazel, or
right.
When I talk about the girls, I just say Ishtar and Lilith and Venus, because that covers all of them. I don't try to pin it down to one civilization, because in the end, every civilization is telling the same exact story. Flood,
they were
fallen
the
angels,
in every civilization,
giants, pyramids. I mean, all of these things, And I want to tell a quick story so I don't forget, because I think it's really important. I want everybody to realize the playbook of the elite. If you read The Secret Teaching of All Ages by Manly B. Hall, he tells you about Caliph al-Mamun, who was the Shah of Iran. And he had this big expedition to go to the pyramid, and he was going to break into the pyramid and get all the treasure. And he promised all these people all this stuff. And what he did was he went there and miscalculated on how long it was going to take him to break into the pyramid. And there was about to be a revolution with all of these workers and slaves and soldiers. And he was very smart. What he did was he sent for his own treasure back in Persia, and brought it to the pyramid and had it buried on the other side while people were working on the other side. And then when they got to the other side, they're like, oh, Caliph al-Mamun, you're so brilliant. And it stifled the rebellion that was building, right? And it just reminds me of, this is the same playbook that the elite are always running on you. You guys are shoveling, you're building, you're working your ass off on one side of the pyramid. Meanwhile, you think you're going after something, but a lie is being buried on the other side, and you're going to fall for that one when you get over there, right? So this is the same thing that they've been doing all the time. And I want people to research Caliph al-Mamun and think about how much like credit they give this guy, when really he was just another king, another trust fund dork who did his thing to control people and used every single avenue of information at his behest to keep people in the dark about what's really going on. And that's what we're going through right now. That's what our parents went through, our grandparents and their grandparents. And it's the status quo of the exoteric presentation that we get. And it's not Democrat or Republican that's real. It's esoteric and exoteric. And really, you need to be searching for the esoteric and stop believing the exoteric, right? Stop believing the presentation and search for the truth. That's why you're here. And it makes life, in my opinion, way more interesting.
Dude.
You're like a kid again.
You can learn how to, dude,
be an adventurer.
Learned how to better myself as a man, as a father, as a husband, in so many ways, dude, just by learning about a lot of these things that they try to hide from us, right?
Yeah, because they want you dumbed down, and they want you as far away from God as possible. And think about how they do that. They do that with this Babylonian money magic. It's like a river. It's like a river. Like the river's the current. But what do they call our money? It's currency. Right? And where does it flow? Like on each side of the river, there's a river bank. Well, where does our currency go? Our currency flows to the bank. And as long as you're going to work and you're spending all of your energy doing something that you're not supposed to be doing and something you hate, and then you're going to the casino and spending your whole week losing it, it's just all an energy transfer. You know what I mean? And it's just like, that's why I don't even want to be in the casino anymore, matching fights, really, because I don't like being in that energy anymore. Whenever I'm at the casino, even though I'm not gambling, like I can feel people's whole work week going down the drain. People's whole, like every thought that they had during the week while they were making money is just
all that energy.
all lost, right? Yep. And this is why they call it pay attention. And it's stop paying attention to what they want. Pay attention to what you want. Pay attention to what's going to better you. And that's so important. And if you want to research stuff really deeply, fine. And if you don't want to, and you just want to run and go run in the woods and walk around barefoot and ground yourself to the earth and get away from dirty electricity as much as possible, then by all means, then do that. Like whatever floats your boat, like that's what you should do. Stop doing what these people tell you to do. Don't wear a mask because they tell you. If you wear a mask, it's probably because you're sick and you're like my acupuncture guy, who's a third generation Chinese guy. And when he's sick, he wears a mask because he doesn't want you to get it. It's not because he's afraid that he's going to get something. It's out of respect, right? So,
not
if you want
some conjured up virus, that's
exactly,
probably an entity in itself, right?
Exactly. He doesn't want to spit on you, right? Yeah. And that's why, what was it? The COVID-19, like, what was it? The number that wasn't it like 666 or something like that? Like
something like
the
that.
The patent for it. Like they're always doing stuff like that. But in my opinion, the number 666 is a psyop that they get. It's
nothing on 77.
Yeah, it's nothing
on 77.
I think it's a psyop. I think it's like Satan. I think it's like, here, look over here. at 666, while
John,
we
why
put
are so
77
many
everywhere.
Christians scared of the esoteric? Because
Because
they
that
can't
because
understand it, or they've been so indoctrinated with like the fundamentalist view that
yeah,
they
I
reject
think
it
it's
completely.
their pastors will tell them not. I mean, almost all pastors will get that people not to look into anything but the King James version, right? Like they won't even want you looking into the Book of Enoch, and then if you do, they'll say it's not canon, and you'll be like, well, it's canon to the Ethiopian version, which is older, and like, oh, well, don't worry, that's bullshit. You know what I mean? It's just, and there's 40,000 different denominations of Christianity.
Yeah.
Like, which one's right? And it's like, look, I'm not even going to begin to judge people like that. All I'm going to do is try to live as Christ-like as possible while trying to become the most dangerous warrior in a garden that I could be, right? It's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war,
in a war. Yeah,
right?
on the battlefield. Yeah.
Yep. So that's the way I want to be. And if nothing ever comes, great. But like I told people, this election year is going to be nuts, and it's obviously going to be crazier than when I was on tinfoil hat. And before I said, look, I don't want to alarm everyone, but I think this ritual with this eclipse has a lot to do with this election, and has a lot to do with, it was on the same day that Aleister Crowley held his ritual. And it was on the same day that they start really rolling out a lot of like sacrifices at April 20th, April 18th. That's like Waco, Oklahoma City type dates, right? It's all around there. So I was telling people, look, just be ready for something big, because it's going to be bigger than COVID. Like there's no way you can go backwards. There's no way that they're going to go backwards. And look what's happened already. We've had aliens at the mall, right? Early in the year, aliens at the mall, right? With 50 cops, and people are saying they saw aliens, but nobody, it was like the craziest story. And Trump gets shot in the ear, 77's there right away. I think it looks really fishy. I think it's all part of the presentation to get everyone behind Trump. And now,
world stage, man.
and now they're telling us, yeah, like Shakespeare said, who I believe is just an amalgamation of Freemason writers. But
dude, Sir Francis Bacon.
yeah, I think it's all those guys. I think it's all those guys. And Shakespeare is just like, here, we're going to write in our Shakespeare file. He's like, good idea. I wrote it there last week. Did you put 77? Yeah, I did. Oh, good. I'm not going to get a pine cone stuck up my ass. I'm pretty sure that's how they talk. Like, I mean, what else could it be? Like, I mean,
I think you're right on the money, man. Like,
yeah, it's just all some dork shit. And there's a very famous interview with this girl, Savali. She grew up a billionaire's daughter, and they locked her in a room for 5 days. The mom kept coming in and drinking water in front of her, and she couldn't understand why this was happening to her. And then on the 6th day, when she thought she was going to die, the butler comes in, saves her. He forms this like trustworthy bond with her. And then the next thing she remembers, she goes to a ritual where there's 5 kids, and the kid in the middle gets his head split open by the scepter after they're doing all this chanting and rituals and cloaks and all the bullshit that they would do at Bohemian Grove. And she remembers being so scared, and the guy saying, oh, it's all part of it. You're fine. Don't be scared. But the kid in the middle got completely obliterated. Yeah. Right? The kid in the middle got sacrificed. So then she grows up becoming a instructor at a private school for the elite. And what do they teach at the elite? They teach Ishtar worship and fallen angel worship, and they teach magic, and they teach ritual, and they teach alchemy,
magic, chaos magic, all that stuff.
They teach alchemy and homunculus, and they teach all this other stuff going on. And, it's nothing that they teach us in school. And it's just like, well, why can't we learn what they're learning? It's like, well, that's the esoteric. That's reality.
Yeah, that's not for y'all.
Right. But people need to realize that that's actual reality. That's reality is what they know. You need to learn what they know and then go with. And there's another reason what I believe that they made deals with these fallen angels, and that's why they're stuck here. That's why they do that. They do this shit, because they can't ever ascend. There's no
Yeah.
forgiveness for
They've
any of them.
fallen.
They're
Yeah,
stuck.
man.
And that's why this is the lowest level of heaven,
The
the
highest
highest
level
level
of
of
hell.
hell, as Sam would
Dog.
say. Right?
Yeah, man.
I truly
What you
believe
just
that. And
said resonated with me so much, dude.
I believe that's why some people can come back as a 2-year-old and play Mozart and never touch the computer because something is bleeding through from the life before and they haven't ascended yet. And they're back here again to have to go through this hell, right? This is hell. But they control you by thinking that if you don't do exactly what they say and toe the line, you're going to burn in a lake of fire. And I just don't believe
and you
that, because
think that you go through life thinking that, and so when you die, that manifests, right?
I mean,
A part of your consciousness may go there.
I think no matter what, you're just coming back here because they
You're
say
right.
follow the light, and you learn that, and from the Archon version of this, that when you follow the light, you're going up into the moons. The Archon tricks you going into the moon, and then it's like a teleport
It's a
portal to
soul
bring
trap.
you right back here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
soul
soul
trap.
trap. This whole samsara thing, the recycling of our souls. So, and that in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, I think it tells you to go away from the light, maybe.
That's what, remember, there was a guy that was in Poland. God, he did a whole tour, but he ended up being killed in Poland. And this is what he was talking about. God, I can't. Max Spears. Max Spears. Does everyone remember that name? I think it is.
I do remember that name.
Max Spears was talking about this, and then he just was killed on the couch on his tour, right? And he was over in Europe. And so, yeah, I think that there's a lot of reincarnation going on all the time. And they get you to believe that that's not the case because that's just believing that you're going to burn in hell, right?
Yeah.
Just believing that. Like
R.I.P. Max Spears, man.
I really have to have debates with a lot of Christians, because I go, wait a minute. So what if I believe in Jesus and he's my Lord and Savior? Am I good? Like, do I got to believe every word in this book or what? And then it's like,
I believe the
watch their brain,
of the Old Testament.
Watch their brain start to like they just can't compute it, right? Because they're very indoctrinated too. And it's like,
Absolutely.
look, Christ would want you to think for yourself, and he'd want you to have discernment, right? And so
Christ studied the esoteric. Christ studied the Hermetic principles. Listen, dude. So the pre-Christian sects of Christianity, the Essenes, the Cathars, the Gnostics, I mean, they all studied the esoteric, right? Now, they may have not been up to par with Christ, but they were that was early Christianity. I mean, there's a lot of theories that Mary was an Essene, that Joseph of Arimathea was an Essene, and that Christ may have been an Essene. You ever looked into that?
No, not really. No,
You should.
that's not really.
It's pretty interesting.
I've heard so many different versions of so many things when it comes to Christ and the fallen, and different versions of this, that it's hard to keep track of everything. And like you asked me, how do you remember all this stuff? And it's like, I definitely don't remember everything. This is proof.
And it comes to you while you're talking.
Yeah, it comes to me. But one thing that really resonates with me is when children die, and it affects me very deeply. Yeah, and I remember these statistics that go with a lot of these events, right? Where we ended up believing something, we sent people, they died, people lost their fathers, they lost their mothers, they lost their kids, but it's not what we were being told, right? And all I want to do is illuminate the fact that, look, like, we already know that they were lying about this, they're lying about that. Well, let's look at this. Oh, here, look at this, look at this, look at that. And it brings you back to the discovery of, like, the country Bhutan, is in Asia, hunter and gatherers for all of its history. All they did was hunt with fire, hunt with spear, and they had no disease. You put one power plant in their country and diabetes goes through the roof, and they change nothing about their lifestyle because there's something going on with this dirty energy, these dirty power lines. We know that free energy used to exist, and like everything that the elite do is to get us hurt, is to get us stressed, and to get us away from God. And that
Because
includes
they feed off of that negative energy.
yeah, they're literally loose energy
Loose
vampires.
jacking. Yeah,
Yeah,
energy
they're
fucking vampires, brother. You're right.
that's all they do. And this was taught to them by these fallen angels, right? Because
Yes.
all
Yes,
of
dude.
these
They have been
things,
doing this for so long, right?
like
Like
makeup, weapons, sorcery, magic. This is all in the book of Enoch, and every single
all of it.
fallen angel had a different thing. Like Azazel was into weapons, and he was the one that brought armor, to man, and pretty much the chaos of war, right? You could
That
say,
was
you know,
Merodach, man. Yeah, it all lines up with when you keep reading along and their names change through the etymology. It's the same deities, different names. Um, so you may
and
have
they'll use different words to
yeah.
pay homage to the same entity.
Well,
For
during
example,
that time, Azazel, Samiel, Utu Shamash, the sun god, was known as Shamsiel because you got Shamash, Shamsiel, who taught the signs of the sun. El at the end of their name.
yeah,
Um,
Michael, Raphael. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
even
yeah,
the
yeah.
good, even the supposed good fallen angels, are the good angels, the archangels. The ones that orchestrated the rebellion's downfall. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Even they have El at the end, which in Hebrew is the equivalent to Baal, is the equivalent
When you look at
to
the Anunnaki stories, bro,
exactly.
El is Enlil.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So,
so it's really like when I talk about God, I don't give him a name,
right.
right? Because that's just making a deity. Um, just like Christ, he Yeshua the Christ, right? The is very important in that, I think, because he was the Christed one. Um, and so, yeah, man, uh, everything you've said tonight has resonated with me fully, and this was great.
And I'll leave I'll
I
leave
love
I'll leave
this.
everyone with one last thing, about the Bible, which, don't be too hard on the Bible, because I believe for how much the trust fund dorks have fucked with it, if you try to read it and read it with discernment, the Lord will
There's
still
many ways to read it.
find a way to talk to you. For example, I was really upset about my stepdad and my mom taking the vaccine. I told them not to take it. I was like, that's retarded. This is a trust fund dork
Experiment.
population experiment. It's gonna make people infertile. It's gonna make them sick. It's gonna do all sorts of bad stuff to them. And then they got it anyways. And I was running in the dome, and I remember just being upset, and I was just like, why won't anyone fucking listen to me? But they'll
Yeah,
listen to
no
people
one
that
listens to me
hate them.
either.
They'll listen to people that literally hate them, but they won't listen to me. And then for some reason, Ecclesiastes 119 kept hitting my brain, and I'd never even read that verse before. And I was like, Ecclesiastes 119, Ecclesiastes 119. I was like, what does that mean? Or 219 or 119 or 118. It's something around there. And then I looked it up, and it said, for more wisdom comes more sorrow. And I just hit the ground. I dropped to my knees, and I knew that in that moment, no trust fund dork fuckery, nothing was going on. The Lord was talking right to me through a download in my brain, sending me a verse that I had no business knowing that number because I had never read it.
That's like
Right.
when you open up like when you open the gospel or something and it goes right to a certain verse in the New Testament and it's something that you needed to like hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was like,
Something you needed
but
to
it
hear.
was when I was talking out loud to myself again. Like I was talking out loud with intention to myself, to God, to whoever will listen, to the universe, right? And it was answered immediately, just like the 77 on the TV screen when I said, I'm not looking at another one tonight. So follow your synchronicities, everyone. Have faith that there is a spiritual war being fought. And if you're on the side of love, you're on the good side. If you're on the side of control and hate and,
Fear mongering
fear
and death.
mongering, then you're on the trust fund dork fallen angel side. And I'm not cool
You
with
are a
that.
fag.
Yeah, you definitely are.
Well, you want to put your plugs in, man? Where everyone can find you and listen to you spit this fucking knowledge you have, brother. Like I said, I'm very happy that I decided to message you today and be like, hey, you want to come on tonight? So yeah, man. If you
Hey
want to tell
everyone,
people where to find you.
you can find me at the It's Not What You Think podcast on YouTube and Spotify, and it's Cha. It's Not What Cha Think, CHA, because my
Chalbeck.
for Chalbeck, because it's not what you think, it's what I think. It's my show. You know what I
Fuck
mean?
yeah, man.
So, and I was the Florida Keys Kid 7 on Twitter, but somebody must have broke into my thing and kicked me out or something, because there's no way I can get back into it.
You have a few Instagrams, I think.
And I'm the Florida Keys Kid on Instagram. And right now I have a backup Twitter. Semyaza 77 is like my backup Twitter. I'm seeing if
no fucking way, really?
Yeah, I'm seeing if maybe that I can.
Stop it. Stop. That's what I was gonna rename the fucking episode Semyaza 77. I'm not even fucking with you right now, dude. Holy shit.
Yeah, it's nuts, man. 77 is everywhere that you don't think it is. Remember the Atlanta church shooting? Dylan Roof? How many shots? 77 shots, right? And then he was indicted on 7/7. In 1984, there was the San Yandero McDonald's massacre that lasted 77 minutes. And then they released a documentary called 77 Minutes, right? I mean, they can't help themselves. It's a requirement. I guarantee you, wherever they're going to school, wherever they're doing their learning, they're learning that they have to do this. They have to. There's no other reason why somebody would be leaving these type of breadcrumbs that are so fucking obvious once you see them. It's so obvious that there's some trust fund dork fuckery going on right now because they're so bored. I mean, when you go up and you've got nothing to do, you've got nothing to buy, right? You have everything, and your parents have made you a psychopath. This is the shit. This is the shit that you're into.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And worse. And worse.
We know
that they're into way worse stuff than implanting numbers in events.
Oh God, dude.
Because let's face it, it could only be one thing, right? It could only be one of two things, Jules. It's either these numbers are fake and they just put them in the stories, which that's what I tend to believe, or they're real. And then all of these events are orchestrated by not man, but by some other spiritual entity that is actually making things fall on 77 all the time, which I don't believe because I've seen the video of the missile hitting the Pentagon. It's a missile. It's not Flight 77. That's why when I get in arguments with people, they're like, it wasn't even flight. It wasn't even a plane, right? It was a missile. I'm like, okay, let's just call it Missile 77. Could we just agree? Could we just call it that? Because I agree it was a missile too. But they're so busy trying to get past trying to quickly argue with me that they won't even listen to the explanation about the ritual, which is, it's not about whether it's a missile or a plane. It's whether the population believes it's a plane, right? It's
The
not
mass
about,
consciousness.
yeah, the mass
Yeah.
collective consciousness, and then nobody will see the 77. They'll just know that, hey, they're talking about, I mean, everywhere I go, I hear people talking about what's going on in the news, and I just have to avoid the whole conversation because nobody's ready for what I have to say. They're just not. They just, no, I can't interject in any of these conversations because people will just think you're fucking nuts, or if I get them one-on-one, right, and I'm just start going over all the 77s, they get scared, like immediately get scared. Like, and that's even contractors. I run a construction company, right? And I'm around contractors who I think are the most awake people for the most part, are the construction people. Mostly all of them don't believe anything on the news. But once I start going over the stats, they're just like, that's unbelievable. I never realized that. And that's all of us. We all never realized that 77 was in World War II, or Vietnam, Iraqi freedom. It was everywhere. It's always there. It's in all the movies. It's in all the shows, and if it's not a 77, it's a 33, it's a 93, or it's a 42 guaranteed. And 666 is get you to look over here. Like the Washington Monument, 6,666 inches high, 666 inches wide, right? That's all done on purpose. The flat earth, what's the round earth? What do they call it? The formula for the globe, the drop. What is it called?
I have no idea.
When
Wrong person to ask.
They call it the curvature, right?
Curvature. Yeah.
Right. They call it the curvature. So what is the curvature? Well, at 100 miles, it would be 6,666 feet.
Of course it would.
Yeah, exactly. So I think a lot of those type of stats are put in there on purpose to get people to believe that there could be some sort of spiritual war going on, but it's just they just get them distracted by all this other dumb shit, these dumb stats. Meanwhile, these false flag events where a lot of people are really dying, nobody really knows what's going on, right? And there's always a 77. Meanwhile, you'll find these 666s and all these scientific things where it's not really affecting anybody on a daily, life. Essentially, like someone's not being shot in one day over it. You hardly ever see 666 there, but 77, you'll see it all the time.
Yeah, man. Don't think I've heard the number 77 used so many times.
July 22nd, Norway. Remember the Norway shooting?
Yes. I've seen that Netflix movie.
Yeah, 77 victims.
All right.
Did they tell you that in the Netflix video? Or did they leave that out?
I'm sure they left it out. Or I'm sure maybe they put it in there somewhere, I don't know, in the credits or subliminally. Who knows? But I'm sure they left it out of the plot.
The Vegas shooter graduated from college 1977, was married 1977.
Dude.
It took me a while to find that one. I'll be honest. I had to go deep down the rabbit hole to find that the Vegas shooter was married and graduated college in the same year. And of course, it's the year that it has to be. It has to be, guys. That's what you don't realize. It has to be there. I'm not a psychic.
Right.
I'm not 100% right. Like I've seen the playbook. I've been to the abyss. I've come back and I know what it looks like now. And it's so obvious. It's boring at this point. It's boring because you know what it's going to be. A 33, a 77, a 93, or a 42.
A 42. Yeah.
I mean, even down the street at Oxford, High School, where there was a shooting a couple years ago. What's the coordinates of Oxford High School in Michigan? 42 degrees.
Yeah, a lot of those specific places fall on a ley line somewhere with similar numbers as to what you just said. Um, yeah, man, I don't think this is the last conversation that we'll be having. I
No,
think this
Jules,
is
I mean, I
first of
like
many.
having conversations with you. You know what's going on. You're you're way more awake than pretty much even the truthers that think they're awake. Like, like I'll be honest, there's a lot of people that
I know
think
what
they're
you mean.
awake, and they're literally so like psyoped in just one area of what's going on that they won't even believe nothing else because they haven't looked into it. And a good example
Yep.
of that is Sam Tripoli had a guy on Zero who was looking into reincarnationists because his dad died. He walked by some lady who said something to him that only his dad would have known. Right. And it blew his mind. So then
Yeah.
he ran an experiment with her, and she pretty much hit 100% of all people. She knew everyone's shit. Like, so something's going on there. How could she know all this information? But in the beginning, the guy's telling the story about how when Mars rover landed, he was weeping because it was such an incredible thing. And I'm watching Sam Tripoli's face laugh because he doesn't want to he doesn't want to break it to him right away, right? He lets him get it out, and he's like, "Well, when you study this, and then Sam goes into it, you'll realize that they're probably lying about what's going on with the Mars rover." And then
Right.
the guy just admitted, he's like, "Oh, I've really never even considered that," because he just takes whatever they say. Because the guy's been studying reincarnation so much, he's only into that. Well, everyone, I'm sorry to break it to you. I'm obsessed with knowing the truth. So I'm not going to be stuck on just one side. I'm not going to be stuck here. And I'm not afraid to get into the mind of my opponent. That's how I know that these trust fund dorks are scared of
Yeah.
fucking it up for their entire
They are
family
scared.
tree, because they don't want to be the one to mess it up for thousands of years of success. That's a lot of stress, right? So they always got to be amping it up. So God bless you, Jules. Thanks for having me on. We've gone 2 hours live. Everyone stay the course. Stop believing in what the trust fund dorks tell you to believe in, and find out what you believe in. Find out what you believe in. You may have to be a detective.
You may have to, man. Wise words from John Lee Chalbeck, everybody. This was an awesome podcast. Probably one of my favorite. Probably one of the best that I've done, dude. So should say something. Um, guys, Great Pill Podcast. Uh, oh yeah, that's what I was gonna say to you. Obviously, that's where the Gray Pill thing comes from. Just like in the middle of white and black pilled, uh, the red and blue pilled, all that shit. The two heads of the same bird, or two wings of the same bird, two heads of the same snake. Uh, it's just something that I've lived by for a little while now, and it seems to work. So I go with it, man. Gray Pill Podcast, guys. Gray Pill _ podcast on Instagram. Gray Pill Pod on Twitter. I'm on Spotify, Rumble, YouTube, BitChute, and Apple Podcast. Gray Pilled Podcast. Still starting a Patreon soon. Just getting like a cache of unreleased videos that I have ready to put on there. And tomorrow morning, 10:30 Central. If y'all are awake, me and Adrian West are going live for an Elohim etymology. We're gonna go over his book, Pantheon 1, The Golden Veins. We're going to just talk for an hour and a half about the shit that we've been researching on our show. He was my first episode on Grey Pilled. And so, yeah, man. So y'all tune in tomorrow on Rumble and YouTube. I'm not streaming to X anymore. Like I said, I'm not paying for that fucking shit. Elon can suck my cock. Yeah.
Just another trust fund dork.
Oh, yeah, dude, for sure. That dude's a fucking portal baby. He's definitely like, dude, yeah. Yeah, guys, dropping a new episode of Elohim etymology. Fuck me. Headphones. Tomorrow. Should be dropping it tomorrow. Gonna try to get it in. If not by Sunday. I just gotta finish editing it. Yeah. Schizo News Network tomorrow night. As always, 10 o'clock Central, me and Nate from Reality Czars and Cody from Oddfellows. Y'all go to oddfellowsbrand.com. Support Cody. You can go to Organite.com. That's the state of Oregon-ite.com. Use promo code GP for 10% off your purchase. And support my boy Isaac. And, oh yeah, I will be printing gray-pilled shirts soon. My 2 logos and maybe something new. I'll be posting them in the next couple weeks. I have a buddy of mine here who's gonna back me on it, so get some cool shit printed, maybe some hats, just a bunch of shit. So if y'all want anything, DM me. Yeah, just kind of let me know beforehand, and I'll be sure to print the amount that I'm going to print. And yeah, last but not least, y'all go to paranoidamerican.com. My co-host on Sound Science, my friend Thomas. Support
Thomas.
him. Thomas is the homie, dude. Yeah, man. John Lee knows Thomas. Yeah, man. paranoidamerican.com, guys. Yeah, I'm going to get us out of here on a couple of these ads from our friend Thomas.
And last, real quick, I just bought a new website. It's notwhatyoutthink.com. I haven't published it yet, but I'm going to be putting all my shirts. You'll be able to buy flags that I built. You'll be able to watch videos, highlights, podcasts, fight highlights, everything I got going on. It'll be a one-stop shop at itsnotwhatyoutthink.com.
Oh yeah, and y'all go check out John's podcast. I have to listen to more people that I know's podcast. I have some time at work to do so, I shall be checking a lot more of your content out, brother.
Appreciate it, Jewel, man. Thanks, man.
Yeah,
God bless.
For sure, brother. All right, guys. I will hopefully see y'all tomorrow morning. If not, y'all have a good weekend and y'all stay gray-pilled. Later.
Spread the word with propaganda packs, all for just $40 shipped at paranoidamerican.com.
Paranoid propaganda packs. We got facts on these sticker slaps. So grab yourself a stack and go attack with these paranoid propaganda packs.
These huge all-weather slaps will last in public for years to come. Remind citizens that birds are not real. Self-immolation is an option, and might make you magnetic. Do your part and get a propaganda pack today from paranoidamerican.com.
Yeah, paranoid propaganda packs. We got facts on these sticker slaps. So grab yourself a stack and go attack with these paranoid propaganda packs.
What are you waiting for? Go to paranoidamerican.com right now and get a paranoid propaganda pack.
Ready for a cosmic conspiracy about Stanley Kubrick, moon landings, and the CIA? Go visit nasacomic.com.
nasacomic.com, CIA's biggest con. Stanley Kubrick put us on, that's why we're singing this song. I'm nasacomic.com. Go visit nasacomic.com. Go visit nasacomic.com. Yeah, go visit nasacomic.com. SemihazaComic.com, CIA's biggest con. Stanley Kubrick put us on, that's why we're singing this song. About NASAComic.com, go visit NASAComic.com. Go visit NASAComic.com. Yeah, go visit NASAComic.com.
Never a Straight Answer is a 40-page comic about Stanley Kubrick directing the Apollo space missions.
Yeah, go visit NASAComic.com.
This is the perfect read for comic, Kubrick, or conspiracy fans of all ages. For more details, visit nasacomic.com.
Gather round, all you mystery seekers. We're diving deep into the dark, exploring realms beyond what's known, where the secrets of the shadows leave their mark. Come take a ride on the Great Old Express, where esoteric knowledge is our guest. From conspiracies to cryptids, we unveil the veil. Mysticism and the occult, our forbidden tale. Join